Hi, my name is Lindy and thank you for joining my channel. If you are new to my videos, welcome. Today I'd like to show you how I make frittata. Okay, so first of all, let me admit, this is the first time I'm making frittata, and I'll tell you why I decided to make frittata. I went for coffee the other day and I bought a frittata and a coffee. The price of one of these frittatas was over $7 Canadian. I actually worked out when costing that the equivalent of one frittata that I bought, I could make 4 at home. So let's see the outcome of these first time frittatas together. So you ask, what is a frittata? Well, a frittata is similar to an omelette. It also can be classed as a crustless quiche. And that's actually the way I like to look at it. Most frittata recipes that I looked through are made in large skillets and then you pop in the oven for about 35 minutes. But I decided I wanted to make small, easy to carry frittata. I'm using paper cups because I find they don't stick. The choices of ingredients in a frittata are endless and you can get as creative as you like. So if you're going keto, this is pretty much a good option. So you can eat them through the day, and because of what's in it, it's going to keep you full for longer. I'm going to make 6 with asparagus and green onion. The other 6 I'm going to do mushroom, garlic and spinach. The asparagus I'm going to cut into small bite pieces because it's easier to eat, and if you do happen to come across a stringy asparagus, it's not a great big chunk of asparagus. First thing I'm going to do now is I'm going to wash the spinach and the asparagus, and then I'm going to chop everything up and I'll meet you back here. While I was chopping up the vegetables, I've decided I'm actually going to do it in 2 separate bowls so that I know I've got 4 eggs in each and I've got the right quantity of cream and cheese in each. So we have equal amounts in all of the frittata. Here we have the mushrooms, which I sliced very thinly, and the washed and roughly chopped spinach. And then over here we've got green onions, the seasoning with some chili flakes and some crushed garlic. I've grated some mozzarella cheese, more than a cup, because I want to use a little bit of it at the end to sprinkle on the top. And I've got some ricotta, which I'm going to decide how much to put in. And then we've got the cut up asparagus, which are all different sizes, and I've used the end stalks as well as the tips. I did trim off the woody ends. And we've got some cream. The eggs and the cream is what's going to combine your frittata. So that's really important that you use the correct quantity. We're going to put about a tablespoon of olive oil and give it a good heat. Then we're going to fry up the green onions and the cut up asparagus. Depending on your taste, about a half a teaspoon of chili flakes, half a teaspoon pepper, and half a teaspoon salt. It is advisable to cook the vegetables before combining with the egg and cream. This par cooks them and brings out the flavor. Saute for 10 minutes until tender but not soft, and transfer to a plate to cool. I'm not going to clean this pan, I'm just going to add a little more olive oil. So we're now going to fry up the mushrooms and the spinach. And again, I'm not using a lid because I want the liquid from these to evaporate. I'm always nervous to burn the garlic, so you don't want to add it too soon. Again, add half teaspoon of chili flakes, black pepper and salt. Once the mushrooms are starting to wilt, add the bunch of spinach, which will also wilt down. Combine all and fry together. You can see that the spinach is wilting nicely. We're going to reduce the temperature and let the liquid steam off. I'm going to just push it to the side. So this has been a few minutes and you can see how it's reduced, and yet we still have the lovely concentrate. We're going to now put this onto a plate to cool. So we've now cooked the fillings. Both of them took about 10 minutes to cook. You saw how I reduced the liquid on the spinach and mushrooms. Asparagus didn't have as much liquid in them. We don't want to put them hot into the egg mix, so that's why I'm letting them cool a little bit. We're going to put 4 eggs into each bowl. And then we're going to add a 1/4 cup of cream. I'm going to give it a whisk just to break up the eggs, but you don't want to over whisk them because then they don't fluff up when you're cooking. And into this we're going to add a little bit of cheese and some ricotta. I'm going to put in about 3 teaspoons, heaped teaspoons, into each amount. And then we're going to just mix them together lightly. I always learned that with muffins, where they say don't overmix. And it's tempting because you want it all to combine perfectly, but you mustn't do that. So now we're going to do the same in this bowl. I'm going to need some more cheese for the topping, so I'm just going to put it in here. You can never have enough cheese. And finally, we're going to add the cooled vegetables. Don't forget all the browning at the bottom, which is the tasty part, and the mushrooms and spinach. And then gently mix them together. And now the final step is to put the raw frittata into 6 of the asparagus and 6 of the mushroom and spinach and pop them in the oven. Make sure when you put them into the containers that you have filling as well as liquid. So keep it as even as possible. I put the extra batter into these 2 single ramekins and top them with grated mozzarella cheese. So we're now going to put them straight into the oven. 375 for about 25 minutes. We're going to check as we go along. It mustn't be wet inside and you don't want it to dry out. Remove the cooked frittata from the oven. Shake them, they shouldn't be jiggly. The frittata in the ramekins are still a little jiggly, still raw inside. We need to put them back into the oven for a couple of minutes. Loosen them and place on a rack to cool. It is best to serve them immediately once out of the oven as they sink quickly. Having said that, they are delicious served cold the next day. These came out nicely and a little higher, however you will need to eat them out of the ramekin even though we greased the dish. Let's cut one open, as of course the test is in the tasting. These are really delicious. So they look really good. I'm going to be making these in the future. The baking time for these was approximately 25 minutes, and for the larger ones, 30 minutes. I would actually suggest you put them in for 20 minutes and just check them at 20 minutes. I know you feel like it's going to flop, but it won't flop. As you can see, they're going to shrink at the end anyway. I hope you enjoyed this learning curve with me, and I look forward to seeing you again in the future. Take care and bye.